What's happening, guys? It's Grizz, and it's time for another episode of Kit Up, my weekly Battlefield series where you guys get to vote on what kit I use in each episode, and then I go out and get a gameplay with that setup and do a review on it the following week. So in last week's episode, which featured the ACWR carbine rifle, Mac Muffin was the first to suggest the M16A4 with the 4X Acog optic. Oh wait, and what are these chatty Cathys doing? Having a chat bat there, are we, gentlemen? So the M16A4 with the 4X Acog optic, canted iron sights, muzzle brake, and an angled grip. So that is the weapon loadout we are going to be using today, and just before we start, I want to say thank you to anyone who made a suggestion. I really want to encourage everyone to keep sending me suggestions, even if yours doesn't get picked right away. Just keep commenting on each episode, and I promise I'll get to it eventually. Also, make sure you subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on future episodes, as well as follow me on Twitter, because I'll sometimes tweet out something like, hey, give me a suggestion for next week's Kit Up, or Kit Up weapon suggestions, go! And then you guys can send them to me there as well. Alright, so enough time wasting, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. The M16A4 is definitely best suited for medium to long range engagements. You can make it work in a close quarters, but you gotta know the deets on this thing, so here we go. As we take a look at the stat chart from Synthic.com, you'll see the M16A4 does the standard assault rifle damages of 25 high, 18 low. Fire rate is 800 rounds per minute, but in 3-round burst and single shot modes only. The magazine capacity is 31 rounds, and the bullet velocity is 650 meters per second, which is on the high side. It's actually the same as the SAR-21, another long-range beast. But one of the first things I notice are those extremely quick reload times. Just look at that thing of beauty right there. 1.8 seconds while still containing rounds in the magazine, and 2.37 seconds empty are the shortest reload times of all the assault rifles. This is really going to come in handy in close quarters, as I often find myself dying in mid-reload with a lot of the other weapons. Being able to reload quickly is definitely a helpful trait, and this is really going to work to your advantage in conjunction with the close quarters attachments you're probably going to want to stick on this little fella, like the canted iron sights that you'll see me use in this video. Although, I gotta say that this is the first hole, let's say, in this particular weapon configuration for me. I found I didn't bother using the iron sights that much and just stuck with the 4X optic once I got used to using it. And I had to actually think about it and sort of force myself to switch to them. I'm not saying that they're useless or anything, I'm just saying for myself, I didn't end up using them a whole lot. I did pick up a couple nice kills with them in this game, but I really had to think about it, I guess, and force myself to switch to them. And not to mention, I missed the T button sometimes and I ended up hitting 5 for grenade all the time. So if I could make a suggestion to improve this weapon's performance, I would say forget about the canted iron sights, and I'll tell you why. The M16A4 has really good hipfire, at least from my experience. And if you run the laser sight instead of the canted iron sights, you literally do not have to worry about ADSing when the guy is too close for the 4X zoom. I really fell in love with the M16A4 while playing with it for this video, and the hipfire is definitely a big reason for that. Now let's talk about the other attachments a bit. The 4X Acog sight is actually pretty great on this weapon. Since the M16A4 is so good at medium to long range, having that 4X zoom is really helpful, and you can pick people off from pretty far away once you're able to control the recoil a little bit. And that's something this weapon suffers from, is a lot of recoil, especially if you're not running the correct, and I stress that, correct grip. It's pretty bad. But we'll get to the grip in just a second. The M16A4 kicks up and to the right in all cases. With the heavy barrel, it's insane. I definitely do not recommend running the heavy barrel with any type of zoomed optic, unless you're just amazing at recoil countering. No, it's pretty drastic though. I don't think it's a good combination in my opinion, but the muzzle brake, perfect option to help reduce some of that recoil. I must admit, Mac, your choice of attachments was superb and really helped me get a good grasp of how to use this weapon effectively. The muzzle brake does a great job of reducing some of the recoil on this thing, and for me that is invaluable when you're using any sort of zoomed optic. As far as countering the recoil on the M16A4, I just kind of pull a little bit to the left to counter some of the movement to the right, because I want that upwards kick to stay a little bit. That's what usually ends up getting me the headshots, is that upward motion. Start at the chest and at the head. So I just pull a little bit to the left and let the rest just happen. Now as far as the grip goes, the angled grip works out amazingly. I tried them all for a good amount of time. I ended up coming back to the angled grip in the end, as it's the best one and the most helpful when it came to recoil reduction. The angled grip offers a bonus to stability, and when used with the muzzle brake, it gives the M16A4 the highest stability stat it can get, if I'm not mistaken. So basically this is the best way to give it the lowest amount of recoil. Use the angled grip and muzzle brake. Contrary to popular belief, there is a difference in performance between the muzzle brake and the compensator, and basically I found in this case it amounted to a slight difference in the upwards recoil movement. So with the muzzle brake, the movement was less upwards and more to the right, while with the compensator it was less to the right and more upwards. So it's going to depend on which way you'd rather counter the recoil. If you feel more comfortable countering with a side-to-side motion, then go with the muzzle brake. And if you feel more comfortable countering with an up and down motion, go with the compensator. So to sum up my thoughts on this weapon loadout, I really like the attachments that were suggested by Mac. I found they really helped reduce the recoil of the M16A4 and make it a lot easier for me to counter the rest of it. When you're using the 4x Acog optic like I was in this game, you're going to want all the recoil reduction and control you can get, because being effective at medium to long ranges means being accurate, in control, and landing your shots. So the muzzle brake and the angled grip are what allowed me to be accurate and in control while aiming down the optic. But the one change I would make to this kit is to swap out the canted iron sights for the laser sight, because I found the iron sights to be a bit of a pain to have to switch to in close quarters, not to mention having to force myself to think about switching to them in the first place, which is a bit distracting. Instead, I would take advantage of the M16A4's decent hipfire by adding the laser sight and just shooting from the hip in close quarter battles. You might find it just a tad more effective. It's pretty great from the hip, trust me. It saves you time of actually aiming down your sights as well. But no matter what you decide to run on this weapon, just know that you're gonna be most effective at medium to long range. So don't go charging into a room of 5 dudes expecting to mow them all down, because that sort of thing just isn't gonna happen with this weapon. Stay back, support your engineers with medkits and revives, peek those corners carefully, take pot shots at long range, and when you find yourself in tight, just spray from the hip. So that is going to do it for this week's episode of Kit Up. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, please remember to leave a like rating, as that would be just super of you. If you're new around here, make sure you subscribe to my channel for future episodes and lots more Battlefield 4 content. And if you have a suggestion for a weapon loadout that you'd like to see on next week's or a future episode, make sure you leave it down in the comments section below. Vote for loadouts by giving them the comments a thumbs up, and I'll most likely pick the highest voted one. Also, follow me on Twitter for other news and updates, and you can always tweet me suggestions there. So once again, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, guys. My name is Grizno. Have a wonderful Monday, and see ya.